Take it off. Wait, was that my outside
Welcome
voice?
to the show that never ends. Sexual Healing Podcast. Conversations will address concerns and celebrations within the misunderstood and misinformed world of sexual being. Your hosts, Dr. Bill, Mac, and Pipes, bring insight from different sexual health perspectives, covering 70 years of experience.
Wow. 70 years of experience. Hey,
Wow. Crazy.
I'm still trying to do the math on that one.
Yeah, I can't figure that out. And I'm not a day over the 70 thing. I'm Dr. Bill. You're listening and looking at Pipes and Mac. We're with Sexual Healing Podcast. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is our maiden voyage. This is our opportunity to meet all of you, all of our listeners, and introduce to you Cody, our security officer, who's roaming the perimeter. We've got Jose and Shelby, sometimes known as Holly, depending on what job she's doing, on our production staff. And we're here to invite you to listen to Sexual Healing Podcast, to be entertained, to be educated. I am Dr. Bill. I am a practicing urologist of about 30 years. That I look good though, don't I?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, very good.
Thank
I
you.
want to look that good after
It
30
must
years
be
of
the
my
salmon shirt.
It's the salmon shirt, crimson. It's crimson.
career. Oh no, Alabama fans would not be happy with that comment.
Is that Is that a sexual innuendo? I don't know what that is. But
Crimson?
yeah, I don't. Alabama. What is that even? Where is that? That's A. So it's the beginning of the states, right?
Yeah.
All right. Opposite.
It's the foundation.
Yeah. It's the other side of the map on Mount Zion, right? How does that work?
Yeah.
See, A to Z. At any rate, I am a urologist, and if you've already picked up on, I am a part-time comedian. At least my psychiatrist thinks I'm a comedian, and martial artist, and cigar smoker, and wine taster. And I have a great opportunity to introduce some good friends, that have been in the industry that I'm interested in, sexual health for men and women. We've been doing it for a long time. We've been doing it together for over 20 years. You've heard their voice. Now look at their faces. We've got Pipes up on top with apparently the white top that's a little bit big. I'm not sure why. Pipes, talk to us. Football player. All right.
I was trying to feel small today. I wear big clothes so I feel small.
I feel small every day. Every time I come home and every time I go to my office. So tell the audience what you're doing for the industry, what you've done, what you bring to the table.
All right. Briefly, I've been in the sexual health field, I guess, for about 20 years. In industry, so I've been on the pharmaceutical side as well as mechanical device, dealing with erectile dysfunction specifically in the device field, and then just actual erectile dysfunction on the pharmaceutical side too, because it was focused really a lot on erectile dysfunction, but also some hormone balances, testosterone, things like that. So that's kind of my history. I have a lot of passion for education and sexual health, both for men and women, and that's why I'm here.
Well, thank you for coming here. And Mac, let's shift over to Mac. Jose, tell us about yourself a little bit. Tell us what you were doing in the last 25 years of your life, and why were you late for dinner last night?
All right.
All right. So what we're going to do is read lips for those of you who are on video right now. We're going to go back in a moment.
Okay, I'm here now.
There he is.
Okay.
Okay, I was saying I was late for dinner because the dog ate my GPS, and so I didn't know how to get there. But okay, my name is David. Hi, everybody. I come from an athletic background and got into a career of sales, and the direction it took me was into medicine. having conversations with very smart men and women, and in that all that time, I learned a lot of great things, and sexual health being one of them. And I believe it. I think there's a lot of mixed messages out there, a lot of things that I was very fortunate to be involved in, and a lot of things that I think the public need to know about, and that not that they're sheltered from it, but there's just really not been a vehicle to get a proper message of sexual health out there. And that's why I'm here joining my friends, Pipes and Dr. Bill.
So we have been working together in one capacity or another for 20, 25 years, and mostly involving education and a little bit of an entertainment aspect. And we really want to use this vehicle as a vehicle for education. So let's talk about what we can do. And I want to think of this first episode as kind of a brainstorming episode for the three of us that you see on screen, and utilize the different demographics that Jose and Shelby / Holly bring to the table. Both of them are sharing one microphone and headset, by the way. I'm not sure how that fits in.
Other bands are banging heads together.
Yeah, I guess so. That's what the deal is. But I would really like to see a normalization of sexual dysfunction. I would like to see my patients who come into my office and not be so embarrassed, be upfront about what their concerns are, not be paralyzed, but they feel as failures, and let them know that it is quite common and quite fixable, and that they are not alone. I think that would be a very cool message.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's a great goal of ours. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So you mentioned your patients. Do you have a specific demographic in your patients, or would this really affect all people?
Well,
the message of sexual health.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that in 2022, we're dealing with straight couples, homosexual couples, men and women, people who don't have partners but rely on the internet for stimulation, rely on self-stimulation or partnered sex and unpartnered sex, masturbation, all those kinds of things. And I'd like to normalize that, because it is normal, it is common. Yeah. And so that's my demographics. I'm lucky enough to have that wide spectrum of patient population. And what did you have in mind when you asked that question?
I think when you were saying to normalize things, when I got into the industry and I was, dealing with penile implants, all these people that I know in my world were like, that's a thing? Like, there's something beyond.
What is that thing? We didn't talk about what that thing is, too.
Well, they just didn't even understand that there were any other options besides the little blue pill as their only option to get through whatever level of sexual dysfunction they're at. And again, that's a great topic for us to discuss in the future, because there's so many different aspects. It's not just that you no longer can have an erection. It's the fact of keeping an erection, not being able to get an erection, premature ejaculation. I mean, there's so many aspects of this. When I started just having casual conversations, well, of course, when I started in the industry, everybody was just fascinated that that's what I did for a living. And so I got all the jokes and all the questions and all of that. But it was so eye-opening for me. It was eye-opening for me going into this field, because I was unaware of so many things. And then to realize how many people are so uneducated, and not in I don't want to say they're stupid. It's more just of an ignorance of the topic. Mm-hmm. In general, across the board, very, very smart people have no idea that there is help for them out there.
Well, let me ask you this for Jose and Shelby. When Pipes was saying she started out with casual conversations, I immediately thought she was going to talk about her experience with casual sex. What was going on in your mind?
Well, what was running through my mind when she's talking about all this is our experience when we opened DOSH.
Department
Right.
of Sexual Health.
Department of Sexual Health, that was your private practice. It was a dedicated practice for patients that you could focus on just purely sexual health. And I remember coming when we moved onto that corner and started advertising the name Department of Sexual Health. You remember, it was like taboo, oh my God, what is that place? And it was a very touchy subject. And this was what, 20 years
10
ago?
years ago, yeah.
Well, I can tell you how touchy that subject was.
15.
I'm Jewish, and for those of you who are watching me on video, you'll say duh. And my wife's Catholic, and so we have one child, and he's a cashew, half Catholic, half Jewish,
that's
and
a
of
good
course I got control over his education, so he ended up at a Catholic school. And every time I've taken the kids to school and Department of Sexual Health with Dr. Bill Schiff comes on the radio,
Right.
I've got to turn it off and everyone's turning red. Oh, I'm telling mom.
That's right.
All right, so I'm getting calls. I was no longer allowed to carpool
That's right.
with the kids.
Oh my gosh.
So Jose, tell me about what your thoughts are. What kind of stuff should we bring to the podcast and what we can bring to the table and as far as education?
Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and people who look up stuff on YouTube, on Google,
There's a lot of different stuff out there.
Well, actually, that's a great point, Mac. How do we position our podcast to not be the average web pre-MD or whatever is going on with internet information? How do we combat real legitimate, in Yiddish, emes, the real thing, information to what we see in the guys who are just trying to roll around and make this $1 rather than really educate and treat patients? How do we define ourselves differently?
Wow, you give me a great question. I wish I had an immediate answer. I don't know what we should pose that to our audience and say, hey, what would we need to say that would legitimize our program? What do they need to hear other than all the other gimmicks that are out there, how to attract an audience? I don't have an easy answer for that. I'm open to suggestions.
First off, I'd like to say that David and I are not in industry any longer. So we are not doing this to represent any company, any business. This in no way is like us trying to promote something.
Mhm.
You as a physician are always educating your parents. I'm joking.
How did you get
I'm
here? How did you get here, Bill? We
Sorry,
found it
Mom.
all.
Sorry, Dad. She didn't mean it. She doesn't hate Jews, honest. Go ahead.
Anyways, Freudian slip.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I want to hear the background on that, Freudian.
But
Go
for
ahead.
us, I mean, David and I are doing this because this is we're all three doing this because this is what we love. We also wanted to be able to do something together
Mhm.
and the opportunity to educate. And again, this is not an affiliation. This is because there is this interest. We have talked to patients. We have dealt with doctors. We've talked to doctors' perspectives. How, a topic of conversation. Some doctors don't want to have these conversations. Patients need to figure out a way, or there needs to be a venue so that they can make it to the right doctor that wants to ask the questions, that is ready to listen. It's a topic that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. So having the right person that you're having the conversation with is just as important as having the right questions to ask and, the open dialogue.
Well,
and so many people.
Well, here, if I can interject just real quickly, please.
Yeah.
If we can just visit the roots of how all three of us got here. We were CME accredited,
Good point.
right?
What
We're
is
CME accredited.
for those
And
who never
you're
went
the
through the
doctor.
process?
Go ahead.
For those of you who never went through the process, the fucking persecution. Tell me about what it takes to be CME accredited.
Too much. It's quite a process. Time consuming. Applications, reviews, rejections, denials. Same thing. Resubmit. More headache. It's a process, and there's very few accreditations out there. And what this accreditation gives us is the ability to transfer knowledge in sexual health. What is sexual health about? And that's what brought us all together initially. That's what brings us together for this podcast. We want to share what is sexual health, what are the lookouts, what are the things to celebrate, all of that about sexual health. I myself personally have benefited greatly in my life from the knowledge I have about sexual health, whether it's my own personal relationships or family or friends. So, that's why I'm passionate about it. So our first podcast is right now saying why we're doing sexual health, because it's fun to see people understand the truth and what's out there. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Thank you, Mac. And Pipes touch upon this, saying that you guys are no longer in industry. I'm still in practice, but I spend a lot more time listening to Motown than in practice. And working my comedy circuit of the one room I go to and pretend I'm a comic. But
nobody's going to go to the Channel Islands for medical help.
But let me ask you a question. The reason I actually got into this podcast deal is to rep my hair loss product. I can still do that, right? I have credibility.
You give me some before and after pictures, and we'll make that decision.
This is before and it's after. Okay, that maybe is truth in advertising.
Maybe our people will talk to your people.
Well, let me ask you this. I think it is, and my background is psych. I spent a lot of time in studying aberrant behavior.
She puts Trish and I in confusion all the time.
I have a psych degree too, but nobody comes to me for it.
Whatever. But what I'm trying,
good martini.
What I'm trying to figure
how I
out,
help them.
and in 2022, we have a lot of craziness going on. We've got a lot of political craziness and conflict. We've got an understanding of, or a misunderstanding of, what pronouns I should be using or what we should be using for each other. The economy is shit. Half the people hate the current government, and the other half hate the people that hate the current government. Where does sexual health come into play? How do we put that on our menu of shit to worry about? Why should we be worrying about it?
I agree.
Worry.
It's about educating. But right now, like mental health has been addressed over and over, which I think is awesome. I'm thrilled that during the course of all of this, that mental health has been addressed, and it's been addressed on so many platforms, television, social media, everything. I think that's amazing. I think people are way more comfortable talking about their mental health now. I know I am. I struggled through this whole pandemic, and I'm getting to a better place. And it's because I have the ability to talk about it. That's becoming mainstream. Sexual healing and sexual health is not mainstream. So we're getting all this information. It's okay to talk about your mental health. It's okay to talk about struggling. It's okay to talk about the fact that you may have had depression. It's okay, to go down this path. Let's make it okay for people to have these conversations about sexual health.
I think that's great.
We're here. Let's normalize that there are issues out there that need to be addressed, and let's make it as mainstreamed and socially acceptable as things are becoming today.
You mentioned sexual
right.
health was on the cusp of becoming mainstream, and we thought it was going there because of the introduction of the little blue pill, Viagra, sildenafil, right? So, this is going to bring it out in the open. People want to talk about sexual health, but it didn't seem to have the energy behind it, so it didn't sustain itself. Yes, we got other drugs that came out, Cialis and
Levitra,
and that suppository. What's that one, Bill? The urethral suppository, Muse. I mean, we got all those came out, so it kind of brought it there, but it never maintained the energy, and it never got the proper. Maybe respect is the wrong word. The proper respect, because so many people were trying to monetize it by having. Well, let me get on the internet and share some information, so I can sell all this stuff through my own vehicle, and so it got to be poured out. I think sexual health did, and we need to bring it back in and strictly educate. There's so many issues out there that people need to be aware. Not issues, concerns people need to be aware of.
Well, I can tell you, Pipes and Mac, I'm supposed to be the player here, despite Pipes' bullshit psychology degree. When you said suppository,
7 years to get that degree, and I'm not even a doctor.
It's not. It was a thin book to read, for God's sake. 7 fucking years. You couldn't put it on video. It's on Netflix.
That's what she's waiting for. Waiting for it to come out on video.
It was a little while ago, back in the good old days, before we had the ability to do all this.
Well, Max said suppositories, and I'm the doctor here. What the hell does hemorrhoids have to do with sexual health? But you're right. There is that news, the suppository. So
yeah, but glad Trish bailed me out. Thanks, Trish.
Well, let me ask you this, and all of you guys have great points, and I see that you're stirring interest and some chatter in the public, because my studio's up in a mountain. I see all these people clamoring to get through the gates to ask us questions. Is there a better way, Shelby, for our listening audience
Holly.
I know he keeps getting my name wrong. He's been calling me Shelby for years, and I just let him.
Holly, can you help us out here?
But does anyone else call you Shelby? It's just for you and me, right? So how do our listener get a hold of us?
Holly.
Holly, yeah. You can find Sexual Healing Podcast on most of your social media platforms, such as Facebook, TikTok. I think it's on Twitter now, and Instagram. And then, of course, we have our YouTube channel. So just search Sexual Healing Podcast.
All right.
And you can also email us at askme@sexualhealingpodcast.org.
Okay, good going. Jose, let me ask Jose this, because I know that he is falling asleep right now at the soundboard. Help us out with some things that the Hispanic community, and I just said that so they know there's diversity in this podcast, that the Hispanic community is worried about as far as sexual health. Are there certain taboos? Are there certain things that Hispanics don't talk about when it comes to sexual health?
Erectile dysfunction. I mean, that's a major thing.
Why is that?
Because of the machismo, I guess, being a macho man and all that. So they don't talk about it.
There David goes.
David is either writing down notes or self-stimulating.
Are you taking notes on machismo? He's writing machismo.
Machismo. I was looking at it.
You're going to Google it? Okay, machismo. Yeah. And it says Dr. Bill. That's what the definition is.
That's the picture right there.
So,
in the salmon shirt.
So it's fair to say, guys, that we should do a segment on different ethnicities, different social groups, think in terms of how they define sexual health. And is that a good thing to do? What else should we be talking about along different ethnicities?
Oh, I don't know.
Not just ethnicities, maybe also youth and the use of drugs.
So age differences, is that a fair discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think what it comes down to is a quality of life as well. That's something that we've always promoted. This is a quality of life issue. This is not detrimental in so many ways, but it's more of a quality of life. And that also ties in with mental health and how you feel as an individual. So is it fair to say, at least in the educational programs that I've been involved in with you guys, as well as educational programs for other physicians, physician assistants, and nurse practitioners, the key point is to leave our biases at the door. Yeah. Just because that guy is wearing a salmon-colored shirt and smoking a cigar, it doesn't mean that he at least prays for sex sometimes, right? I mean, that's a fair thing. If I go to the doctor, I should be asked about that, right?
I think you downplay it a little bit.
So we should talk about the biases, social biases that are there. And certainly at 67, and Trish, you're about a year or two older than I am, but
69.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for picking up on that.
We won't get into
magic
Kama
number.
Sutra right
Oh,
now.
that was the
Kama
year I
Sutra
was
comes later.
born.
You-
That's right.
You were fucking born in '69?
I was.
Oh,
Fucking
I'm a
born?
child of the
70s.
60s.
wow.
Yeah, I'm going to take a break. So I mean, that's a fair thing for us to, joking aside, again, I was trying to joke. Joking aside, we should talk about the biases. Is it okay for people in their, I know I have patients in their 90s who are sexually active.
Right.
And that's important to them. And it's an important aspect to both physical and emotional health. So that's a fair game for the fair topic for us in the future.
And I think we need to talk about watch outs, what to look out for, because we know there's
Right.
the percentage of people who deal with other morbidities, diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular issues, and just point out what their watch outs are, things they need to be aware of.
The clinical.
The clinical aspect.
Yeah.
This.
I think we can talk about things like
I think that's such an important topic because what's the expression? I always get this wrong. The penis is the thermometer of health.
I think it goes, the fucking you get is not worth the fucking you get. I think that maybe is that what you're talking about?
I can't even follow that.
That was my
have another drink.
Like I honestly,
that was my
Now you're
advice.
back on the martinis.
like, did you see me? I was trying to follow the bouncing balls on the words, and I totally missed it.
That was the advice I got from my dad about marriage. The fucking you get is not worth the fucking you get. Not this marriage, not my current marriage.
I love it. I totally get it.
Okay.
As a male, is that a sexist joke?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay, make sure I'm going down there. We're not
No.
talking about that.
No,
Because
come on.
sexual health is has equal. We don't by no bias.
What is the expression? Because if a man is having erectile dysfunction issues, a lot of times they'll go see their cardiologist and realize that they have some cardiovascular issues, or they find out they're diabetic and hadn't been tested. So because if they're having some erectile dysfunction, I'm not talking, completely.
Just some changes in their lives is a little different.
Well,
Yeah. So what is the expression?
I'll
penis
tell
is
you,
the thermometer is the thermometer.
I think
Of life.
you're talking about oral sex being okay. That's fine. But I think, unless you're talking about a rectal thermometer, where are we going with this? But I think
I have
that
no
there's
idea.
a group of cardiologists and cardiac surgeons in my area have opened up a hospital, and it's called the Heart Hospital. And it's the fact that if you have cardiac issues, you can't get hard anymore. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
All right. So the science.
That's all they want. That's all they want. That's all their marketing is. They want to sell the blue pills as much as they can.
The science, the actual facts behind Pipe's comment is that if you take a 50-year-old guy who's otherwise healthy and presents to his urologist, not the internet selling pills, that if he presents to the urologist with erectile dysfunction, he's got a good chance, close to 45-50% chance of having a heart attack or a stroke in the next 5 years. Serious business.
Yeah.
So all
That's
joking
that's
aside, it's
information we need to get out.
it's the thermometer of general health. And then when you talk about diabetes, as you guys have mentioned, metabolic syndrome, smoking, not cigars, but what's the stuff you inhale? Cigarettes, obesity, lack of exercise, not following a heart healthy lifestyle. That's an indicator for erectile dysfunction, and we need to express that. We need to tell people that.
Yeah.
I would be very curious to see now that marijuana is legal in so many states, like smoking marijuana and what the effect that does on your erectile
libido.
dysfunction.
Yeah, even libido for
Libido,
females.
for sure, because it's such
And we need to talk about females here too. It's it's not just one person who suffers in sexual health. It's always a couple that suffer.
Well, you bring up a really good point, Mac. What happened, and I think we can all agree that what normalized sexual dysfunction in men was the blue pill or Viagra in the 90s, I think?
Yes, late 90s.
And I get women who present to my clinic with sexual dysfunction and are angry. They're angry because there's not a pill marketed for them. Why is that?
Well, there was that pill that was on the market for a while, but everything that you had to do to qualify to take it was kind of ridiculous. Is that off the market?
You know,
in all honesty, I don't remember. I don't know.
It's a great point, and it was so frustrating for physicians and patients, because you had to sign a statement that you would never drink alcohol. All right.
Wow.
That was the best sex I ever had with alcohol.
Wow.
So what's going to happen there? You had to actually sign a paper that you wouldn't drink alcohol.
Rules of the road. Huh?
Rules of the road. And there were all sorts of crazy obstacles. And it made sexual health treatment work. It made it full of obstacles. And it made it an environment where patient, insurance companies, and physicians were at odds. Yeah,
because the only thing that the guys can't do is take nitrous.
Yeah, so we can. Is it
Yeah.
possible we can give the history of Viagra, how it was discovered? I mean, because like you said, Bill, women are upset that so much is invested in a man's sexual health where they don't have a pill, right? But if we can clear the waters a little bit. Viagra, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was being in a research project or being tested out there for another disease state.
Yeah, it was for
side effects.
Infants.
The side effects were was erections.
Yeah,
and that's how it became. It wasn't an investment in erections.
Correct.
It was just dumb luck. So I think for the females out there who may have their positions and I understand how they can get there. Is if they understand how the process, it may clarify that this wasn't men taking care of men.
Well, no. I think this is a whole nother topic too. Is how men and women are willing. One, what they're willing to do for.
Okay. Yeah.
It goes back to we can relate male enhancement procedures that are out there, or even just having an penile implant done.
You're talking about penile enlargement.
Penile enlargement.
Okay.
Women are willing to pay to have, breast augmentation, Botox, all of these things done all the time. Men aren't necessarily as willing to put cash out in that. But then you look at sexual dysfunction. Men will pay to go and have an implant done or go through the process, and women aren't going to put out that kind of money because they look at things very differently. So pharma didn't think that there was going to be enough money on the female side as well.
Okay.
And in all honesty, I think that's kind of how it's played out. But they also made it way too stringent.
Yeah, but the same. I guess my point is the same drug, the Viagra, can be used in women, but right now there's strings attached to it, or you can give it off label.
Well, you're not. But women aren't supposed to use testosterone either, and that's prescribed off label all the time because women have a testosterone level, which is again. Most women don't realize that they produce testosterone on a smaller level and that they have a prostate. That's a whole nother topic.
Great segments. But when you say women weren't allowed, that's pretty crazy that you would think in our society that women were not allowed to do that. In fact, I went all through college believing that women were not allowed to date me. So there is that historic precedent.
Your father's reach is
that was right on.
Huge. But I got into medical school. Barely.
Okay.
I got in.
Memo went out.
Again, his reach. He reached around the
like,
corner and checked the right box for you.
That's right. So yeah, it speaks to how powerful big pharma is, and that was certainly brought up by a lot of people during the last couple of years during the pandemic and the reach that pharma has. And I'm speaking. I'm no longer in that game. Out of choice, I think that I'm no longer paid by pharma to go out on the road and speak, because I got in trouble because from an HR point of view, I was not appropriate, I guess, but I was funny. But
that is the truth.
Big
people
pharma,
are so myopic.
Well, if I knew what that meant, I would agree with you. because I've got astigmatism. But the point is, is that big pharma has a huge fucking reach on us and a huge control, and we all three knew it. Holly, who believes everything is a conspiracy, knows it, and Jose is just trying to figure out why my hair plugs don't look real on video. They have a control that we have to at least let the public know, all two of our listeners know, that a lot of the information out there, as you pointed out, Mac, is disinformation. And we want, in this vehicle, in this podcast, Sexual Healing Podcast, open the light up and let people know that there's different information out there that's safe and make it comfortable for all of us. I love this concept.
One other thing you just said about misinformation, and just that, and I think our audience needs to understand too, as we speak to them over the next few months, as we talk about all these topics that we've just touched on, is misinformation just doesn't come up on the internet when you Google sexual health or diet, Viagra, or any other keyword that you can think of if you want to ask yourself a question about sexual health. But it also comes to us through pop culture, the movies, music, things that are said, commercials, and maybe we talk about how pop culture kind of influences in the wrong way when it comes to sexual health, how we can keep it real.
Okay, I want to do that segment, but what does that mean? You're talking about porn?
No, I'm talking about
pop culture.
I think porn, but misinformation. Well, the joke, like, if it's on the internet, it has to be true. We all know.
Right.
That's not the truth.
If I didn't write it, it's not a joke.
Right. And so I think what David's saying is there's so much misinformation and people just believe it. And I'll be honest, I've got kids in their 20s and they read something and they're like, oh my gosh, did you see this?
The vaccine's going to make me impotent.
Ridiculous. That doesn't even make sense. I don't even know why you're even repeating that. But, but to them, that is like truth.
One of the things in pop culture I was alluding to was many of us have seen the movie Austin Powers, International Spy. And there's a scene there where he's checking out of the jail and they go, oh, here's one Swedish penis enlarger. And he's denying that it's his. But in actuality, it's not a penis enlarger. It's an actual device, therapeutic device for men to help them get blood flow. Other benefits are from it, but people see that and it's a joke. But again,
the mojo.
That's an example. That's just an example of the things that are out there that get people going down one particular path when they really shouldn't go there if they're that concerned or want to know the truth about sexual health.
Well, what's great about Jose cutting away on video is that it's not a joke. In fact, I'm using it right now during the broadcast.
Is that a battery operated one or a pump one or
always manual?
Oral hose one?
Well, Shelby used to sell them.
What's her name?
Holly. I used to sell it under the Holly label. What is better, the hand pump or the battery?
Well, I personally, because if you're going to use it for a therapeutic type of way, you want the manual. They're just more dependable, more controllable. And it's not just to, build an erection for sex. We used it as therapeutic. It was a daily therapy to help increase
priapism. Wasn't it used for priapism? When you kind of got some rid of that plaque, you wanted to kind of keep it extended.
Yeah, so Peyronie's was another
for Peyronie's
reason.
Yeah. Peyronie's. Did I say priapism? Okay.
Well, but you also sold it to women, though.
Yes, so I did.
Oh yeah, female version,
which is the same thing. They had a his and hers, and there was an attachment that went on to the pump. So most of the couples would share the actual pump, but would change out the accessories.
So a twofer.
It was a twofer.
Yeah.
And I said earlier,
can you send me that attachment, please?
Like we said from the beginning, it's a couple's disease. That's what we're here to talk about. It doesn't affect just one.
Yeah. And when when they would come in and, you know, I'd do the whole training on how to use it for daily
Use the wrong
therapy.
word, Shelby. It's a fitting, right? A fitting, not a training.
Well, actually, with mine, it was a training. It was a training. My whole thing was to get them to use it for therapeutic reasons. So I had to teach them and why we wanted them to use it. And this was all over the counter stuff. This wasn't anything.
Yeah, it's not a sex shop. It's interesting. In my practice, I have to say, I have to use the term, it's a piece of exercise equipment.
Yeah.
It's like going
it's
to your
considered
neighborhood
novelty.
gym. It's usually on the second floor of the back room where you have that machine. If you don't want to go to your public gym to use it, buy one for $20, $25. They're on the internet. It's not black market shit. It's something that actually has some therapeutic value.
Yeah.
It's dilating vessels for both the penis and the clitoris. It's bringing in oxygen, and we're going to find out that that's all good stuff. So I guess, guys, that what Holly is bringing up and Jose is still dazed about and looking on his own personal laptop where the hell to get one.
I'm Googling it at the moment.
You got it? You all right? Okay, you want my credit card? Okay.
Yeah, give it to us all. Go ahead. I'm ready to write down.
So there is therapeutic value in this, and it's not crazy, it's not stupid, it's not inappropriate, it's not sick.
No.
It's something that has therapeutic value for couples.
And when they would come in, they just couldn't believe that there was something like this simple, this easy that would help. And I got a lot of good feedback, you know, from a lot of patients. I sold many of them.
What's the name
Well,
again?
think of what we might have accomplished right here and now. Education on what that thing was. They tried to make a comedy prop with in a movie. They thought it was just a penile enlarger.
Yeah.
And I think that's just an example
That's
of
another
pop culture. Yeah.
As
Right.
a very, very accomplished, successful, and renowned comedian, I've always said that there's truth in comedy. And the value of being a comedian is to be smart enough to take that human condition and make light of it and bring it to the attention and educate. So that Austin Powers super spy international guy with the vacuum device gave us a gift. It gave us some education to talk about. And thank you for bringing that up. Let me, Pipes, you mentioned hormones for men and women. How big a deal is that? And I think there's a lot of shit on the internet, inappropriate stuff, and boxing gyms and weightlifting gyms. There's a lot of stuff, illegal juicing. How dangerous is that? What should we bring to the community? What should we say to our listeners about that? Is that a good thing, a bad thing, neutral? What do we talk about with that?
Testosterone is very regulated, as you well know, as a physician. It's very regulated. Yes, it can cause a lot of damage, probably to both sexes. In all honesty, I don't know as much about the female side of it.
If it's misused.
As I do about the male side, and knowing people who have had, reactions or, negative things from over steroid use, things like that. But just the fact that women don't, I'm in the midst of that whole menopause, 69 years old. I mean, of course I am. Lots of hot flashes. But hormone balance, having testosterone balance, all of these things. So many women are so uneducated in that. And to be brutally honest, it's hard to find somebody who understands how to balance females. I mean, again, another great topic, another topic for women to understand that for their sexual healing, their sexual health, there has to be some balance for them as well.
Yeah. So go ahead.
I was going to say men's testosterone levels drop. We all know that. That's just an age thing. It's going to happen. Being able to balance that out, have men feel like they're a little bit more normal, and especially if they're working out and doing things. So men and women need both estrogen and testosterone. It's all about testosterone. But Mac, as a professional athlete, I think it was pickleball. You toured is that a professional sport?
And do you know that pickleball now is the state sport for Washington? The sport of the state, however you call that, official state sport?
Well, is that where you and you were a shoe-in with that height of yours? But was there a lot over the years in the professional circuit in Europe? Seriously, did you see abuse of testosterone?
Testosterone, I would say no. I was ignorant to anything about with testosterone. Anabolic type steroids, that was worldwide. That just wasn't Europe or South America when I was those countries I was in. It's everywhere, and there's been some prominent people who have abused anabolic steroids for muscle building, bodybuilding, mass, and stuff that have not fared very well post years. But yes, abuse, because we all think a little is good and a whole lot is better. You know, even in the safe drugs, even in the safe like testosterone, estrogen, you know, what your body produces, that amount is what you want. You don't want more. It doesn't make anything better. It just gets you into trouble. And so for those who have, you know, were motivated for other reasons to do an anabolic steroid, you know, and you backed off, you know, we can talk about those people, about what the watch outs are, what to look for, because it's something you need to be aware of, no question about it. It messes up the system.
I love those terms, the watch outs. I have another question. Let me shift gears for you guys. Can
I just add one other thing, Bill, real quick? Because I'll play off what Trisha said.
Yeah.
Trisha said that, you know, that a lot of her female friends are unaware of the value of testosterone. And what first thing came to head was, well, don't they see their female doctor? And that female doctor, do they know about, I'm sure they do, their physicians, about testosterone? Is that something that a gynecologist talks about? And the second part of that question is, do men have a doctor? I mean, women have a gynecologist. Do men have what?
Urologist.
Proctologists, we're all asses? I don't know. But go ahead, Trish, you were going to say.
My point
and maybe our Filipino presidents can help us on that question too.
Testosterone prescribed to a female is off-label. And I think doctors are worried about that. Because, again, we have pharma who is not going down the path because there's not enough money in it for them. This is my understanding, and I'm kind of talking as a layman right now, so do not quote me on this. But the companies who produce testosterone don't do it on label for females, but doctors will still write it because it is a necessity. But not as many females are willing to go down the path. So financially, it's not as lucrative for them to jump through the hoops to make it like for women.
Well,
so doctors are writing it off label.
Well, you have been quoted. You have been quoted, Pipes. I'm getting direct feeds from the London and New York Times how Pipes has talked about testosterone being off label. So you're already in play, and you're controversial. Here's the other issue that we don't talk about with hormones and being off label and giving things to patients who need it, but it's not been FDA approved. We got to bring in my Jewish brother-in-laws and uncles and friends who are all fucking lawyers. And lawyers are great when you need them to help you out of whatever, but they're also, for physicians, it is scary shit when we talk about treating patients who need to be treated, but it's off label, because all of us, myself included, am I going to get sued for this? All good intentions, not wanting to screw anyone over, but there are lawyers out there that are looking for opportunities. Now, I'm not saying that all lawyers are bad. Let's say 90% of them are. I'm sure there's 10% of guys who are okay. But, and it's not to say that all physicians know what's going on and they're appropriate. I'm going to get in trouble. I already know, Jesus. But here's the deal.
Think of a doctor joke.
Yeah, we practice defensive medicine. And yes, the gynecologists who are treating the females need to be aware of the advantages of off-label treatments, but sometimes it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the headache because we all have to survive. And mostly There are urologists who deal with hormonal management for men. Some of us deal with hormonal management for men and women. But this is kind of a spin-off for what we talked about with internet medicine. There are a lot of people that are offering clinics, testosterone clinics, shockwave treatment for scarring plaque or Peyronie's disease, shockwave treatment for erectile dysfunction, not FDA approved, but there's a ton of clinics where they don't even know the name of a urologist who's affiliated with it. They're run by other physicians who are looking to make a dollar based on social needs. So yeah, let's make the physicians, the subspecialists, take back that treatment and do it legitimately, but also be aware that there's got to be some sort of compromise. Not everything that happens badly in a physician-patient relationship requires litigation. I don't even know how to address that, but it would be a cool topic. It would be a very cool topic.
Yeah, you're right. That is a whole nother. So I'm going to piggyback on you again. I know we're doing a lot of this. And
I get to piggyback as well.
Piggyback, because
be careful, I've got bad knees, but go ahead.
I'm out of wine, so we're going to have to take a break in a minute. But let me just piggyback on. So, and I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble for this, but he'll never listen to me on this. He never listens to me like day to day. But so my husband got prescribed testosterone a couple of years ago.
You've come to the right place. We're going to listen to you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. But and he had a PA that he was seeing, and the guy, his testosterone levels were super low. He wrote him a prescription for testosterone. I talked to 3. Obviously, I was dealing with urologists every day. Pretty sure I reached out to you and 2 other doctors.
No, I never heard this story. So there's another urologist in your life. Get them on this fucking program. Okay.
No.
Don't want to. No. So I talked to a couple of different urologists, and what the PA had prescribed was,
you need some wine.
I know, was not what the urologist, both of the urologists, I thought it was you. I apologize.
There's another good-looking urologist out there, I guess.
Okay. So their husband could be feeling a whole bunch better if he would have contacted you, but since you went to subpars.
But both of them
tried to save some money.
Both of them prescribed the same dosage and everything, totally different than this PA did. So my point to this is, right, just getting prescribed and understanding balance and everything else, but the correct dosages, and going to somebody who specializes in this. Yeah. Not your GP necessarily, not a PA that you're seeing. You really need to go to somebody who focuses so much on this in particular. And that was very eye-opening for me, even though I was in the business and urologists who I worked with. It was interesting that what he was prescribed. Great guy, phenomenal PA, nothing negative that I'm saying.
He's for crap. Quit trying to give him props.
I mean, but it just isn't his forte.
That's why he's for crap. He should have defaulted and said, "It's not my area." And if we reflect what you're saying, why we're here.
Yeah,
it all started with education.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed. And that's why we're here.
And that's why we're here. I don't know if we shared this with our listener, but our content got CME approval. That's our cred. That's our street cred right there.
Yeah.
And
so with that CME cred is continuing medical education credits, and practitioners need to accumulate so many CME credits every time span, a year or 2 years, to keep their license active. And the information that's passed through CME has to be accurate, has to be peer reviewed, it has to pass a number of litany tests. I mean, I should just be nominated for a Supreme Court justice. It's easier that way. But I think it gives us our street cred. We got this topic, the things we're going to educate with, And guys, we need to continue to send that message as we talk to our audience that, this is stuff that we just didn't whip up. It's real.
Yeah.
I love that summary, Mac, and I love your personal story, Pipes, because it speaks to the fact that, there's so much other shit that we should cover as far as social media and how that impacts body image and how that affects sexuality for different age groups, and we want to talk about that. But also, the path of least resistance sometimes is not the best way.
Wow.
You know what? I think that certainly your story with Mr. Pipes, we won't name him, is all telling. Is that if we got rid of the stigma of being concerned about our own personal sexual health, got rid of the fear and the paralysis, we wouldn't want it just to get it over with and get the fastest, quickest, most efficient, cheapest treatment. We do it correctly. And I think that's what we're all about. We're all about education and clearly about comedic entertainment, without question.
But this here is the cheapest way to get really educated because we're not paying for this podcast.
And it's the cheapest way to get comedic relief.
Wait a minute. Yeah. We're not getting paid for this?
No.
No shit? Well,
Shelby,
you know what?
Shelby, have you sent the checks out yet?
Screw that.
We each got 13 cents off the one listener.
Jose, take us out because I'm done. I just found out we're not getting paid. We'll talk.
We're paying to be here.
Oh, it's costing us money. We're done. Yeah. All right. This is your Uber podcast. We're done. We thank you guys for listening. Let's carry it out. Remember what Shelby/Holly and Jose has talked about. Get a hold of us. We'll see you next week.
You can reach us at
Any questions? We welcome them all.
We are here to make your sexual health be everything you want it to be. We'll visit with you next week for another episode of Sexual Healing Podcast. Stay sexy out there.